Sup everybody, this is Karak with ACG, and welcome to a trailer analysis. In this case, it's a teaser analysis, but it's for Red Dead Redemption 3. We got an incredibly short trailer, but interestingly enough, as you look at the trailer, there's some issues that can be gleaned from it and some little aspects of the gameplay that we might be able to see. So what I'm going to do is jump in here. This will be a little bit like the one for Mafia. Of course, we all need to assume that we have no clue what the actual game will look like. This certainly does look like in-game footage, and I'll show you some of those reasons why. I don't see anything here that is CGI. It all looks in-game. But when it comes down to it, we all know how trailers can turn out. Even though GTA 5, for the most part, it had one or two trailers with some oddities that were pared down. For the most part, a lot of that looked like it did when it actually arrived on the PC. At least we'll have to go ahead and look at it this way. Also, let's remember that we don't know what footage this is. It could be PS4 Pro, it could be Xbox Scorpio, it could be PS4, or it could be Xbox One. We're just not 100% sure, and that's the way these go. We've seen this before. So let's jump in. One of the first things I notice is if you count the true entries of characters in this, you get 7, which does correspond to that total number of gang members. So let's just look at the entries for each character. So here's the first with the sunset behind him, and here's the second, who might be the female in the gang. And then, of course, here's the third, and then the fourth here, and I'm just counting the person in front, and then the fifth on the back of the train. And then here you've got the sixth getting on his horse, and we've got the seventh there behind the coach. Now, if that's all true or not, we don't know. It's one of those situations where you just see a certain number of characters that pop up in those little introductory bits, and it was weird that it equaled the 7 right away. Let's watch this ride back a little bit slower, though, and see what we can see. If you look closely, right there on the left, second to the left, that could actually be the protagonist that we see standing near the fire. So it's going to be very interesting. Since we don't know the makeup, is it going to be 3 playable characters? Maybe are all of them going to be playable? Or even more importantly, if you look at the way this is sort of set up, is it something like a bounty hunter and you're actually chasing these people down? Now, people have talked, is this a prequel, is it a sequel? Well, let's look at that as well. Now, while bison didn't stop suddenly magically breeding at the time of John Marston's inevitable ending in that title, we do know that that was one of the major things that you could do, of course, is hunt bison. I would assume if you look at those bison and the amount that there are, and what's even more importantly, if you look at that train and you look at the year of the train, that actually appears to all be identical or even prior to the trains that are used in Red Dead. Now, that's just one little aspect, but you also notice there are no cars that I can see, at least. And if you look at the carriages and the way everything is presented, it is equal to or prior to everything that was in Red Dead when it comes to a technological factor. Everything, even if you look at the store, what's there. Now, somebody who understands guns could certainly go and they could identify if 1 or 2 of these guns, even if they are fake style guns, usually they'll have some mechanism that was only invented at a certain year. So somebody who understands guns will certainly be able to do that. I understand a little bit about them and have looked at those and haven't seen anything that would indicate more of the World War I styling that a sequel would have. Now, this might be technically the first real prequel that we would have from Rockstar, but it is not completely unknown or unexpected, especially if they want that online component. And that online component, of course, it would be much more interesting to have it be a prequel for that online component than a time frame of almost World War I. Now, of course, the next step is graphics, and remembering that we don't know what it'll look like when it actually gets released. We do see that this is definitely in-game footage. We can see that especially when you look at things like the particle emitters, like the carriage wheels here in fast and then in slow motion here. We see that that is atypical for a normal particle emitter that is, in some way calculated to be around that wagon wheel. Now, we also see it very, very clearly at the dog's feet when they're in this area, and I'm going to slow it down so you can see those particle emitters at work. And this is something we see normally. Any normal particle emitter looks like this. You can actually see it, coming up from the ground in this sort of deformable territory. I guess that's a wolf there in the mud. And of course, we see it a little bit around the buzzard's feet there as well. I think the next thing, and the thing I want to talk about the most, is just what do I think the game is actually going to entail, because that's really the big question from what we got here. I hinted a little bit about the starting, about some of the different ideas. We have seen Rockstar reach out and try to do something new, especially with their 3 protagonist gameplay system that they used in GTA 5. One of the things that would interest me, I don't want 7 playable characters. That's a lot. It's not that I don't want them. It's just that would be quite cumbersome. You could have technically 3 main characters, and you could then have the others be side characters. That would completely work. But when we start to see how this is sort of framed, where it certainly does, if you look at the trailer and how it's sort of put out, there's definitely a feeling of menace for this gang, and it does make me wonder if in some way we are going to play, you know, a character going after the gang that John Marston was in prior to Red Dead. And that would be very interesting. Indeed, it would actually be interesting, and it certainly wouldn't be over for Rockstar to try this, to have you play both and have you play the actual protagonists and the antagonists, and that would be very cool as well. But let me just explain to you why I don't think that's probably happening. Because if you watch this ride and you see the female on the right and you remember what happened in Red Dead, you're most likely coming to the same conclusion I am, which is that the woman riding on the right is most likely John's wife, who he and Butch discuss in Red Dead number 1 as riding with them, and then John married her. Overall, I have to say, you know, it looks good. I've seen people say it looks amazing, and I certainly cannot say that I feel the same way. It has the game conventions we expect, where there's grass and a flat texture underneath it. We have, you know, multiple places where there could have been tessellation. So it's not necessarily a trailer that wowed me. I don't get excited about those in particular, but I certainly do about what it all could mean as it comes together holistically as a title. And there's certainly a lot there. They were going out of their way to show animal life, going out of their way to show a still untamed world. When it comes down to it, we're looking at this time frame being released after the PS4 Pro has been out in the market for almost a year, depending on the exact sale date of this. And then you're looking at the Scorpio coming out right then. And this will be one of those showcases for those systems. You know, it'll be really interesting to see just how powerful they are and what footage we're seeing here. But I'm very interested. This stuff looks great. Sure, it's short. We knew it was going to be short, though, so it wasn't really that unexpected. But there's a lot to glean if you just look at the way Rockstar cuts their stuff. They do it on purpose. And there were very specific cuts here that sort of point to the fact of that huntmanship that's going on. And so, anyway, I'm pretty interested in it. I hope you guys like this. That was my thoughts on the trailer. As always, if you like the video, hit thumbs up. If you dislike the video, hit thumbs down. Peace out, and enjoy the rest of your week.